A small town in Austria, a family house on a residential street. A young woman is dragged into a specially built cellar, chained to the wall and raped. There she remained for 24 years.
I went to see this dungeon, this prison, for myself once. I went through it and was very glad to be able to leave.
In that dark, airless space, Elisabeth Fritzl had 7 children. Her tormentor, her own father, Joseph Fritzl.
If I could decide what would happen to him, I would throw him into the same hole that Elisabeth and the children were in.
For 2 decades, he managed to fool everyone.
Nobody in this street noticed anything at all.
Until a few weeks ago, when the cellar gave up its secrets.
Intelligent, a strategist, an almost perfect criminal of the worst kind.
He turned the family home into a house of horrors. How did he do it? And how did he get away with it for 24 years? April the 19th, Saturday morning in Amstetten, a small town 70 miles from Vienna. At 7 a.m, a man called the local ambulance control, telling them that a young woman, Kirsten Fritzl, was seriously ill. An ambulance and crew were dispatched to number 40 Ebestrasse, the home of Joseph Fritzl. At the local hospital, it had been a quiet morning. All that was about to change with the arrival of the young woman, whose symptoms at first confounded medical staff.
She was in a state between life and death, and is, to this day.
The young woman was unconscious when she arrived. She had also lost many of her teeth. Later that morning, Joseph Fritzl, a man describing himself as her grandfather, turned up, saying that the girl's mother had run off many years before to join a sect. He'd brought a note from her addressed to doctors.
Please help her. Kirsten is very scared of strangers. She has never been in a hospital before. I've asked my father for help, because he is the only person she knows.
Nun hat der offenbare Großvater, the man who claimed to be this young woman's grandfather, said that this was the 4th time his daughter, who had disappeared, had abandoned a child with him. We said to ourselves, it must finally be possible to find this woman. And that's not the hospital's job, it's a job for the police. Das ist nicht Aufgabe des Spitals, das ist Aufgabe der Polizei.
At first, the authorities concentrated on finding the girl's mother. They wanted to question her about what they thought might be criminal neglect.
All the schools were written to, the central registry database was searched, inquiries were made at the Social Security Office. Every avenue was explored. There wasn't a shred of information about Elisabeth.
On April the 21st, still baffled both by Kirsten's illness and unable to trace her mother, Elisabeth Fritzl, doctors broadcast an appeal.
What do you hope to achieve through our interview?
I would like the mother to contact us. We'll treat the contact with high discretion and will probably get a step further in our diagnosis and treatment.
Thus, it came about that a television appeal was launched because the doctor couldn't make sense of the clinical picture. And that can be explained, because Kirsten had severe vitamin D deficiency.
Having failed to find Kirsten's mother, police changed tack. They went back to the family home and started taking DNA samples from the Fritzls, including the children who had previously been abandoned by their mother.
We wanted to have everyone's DNA samples in order to trace a possible father or fathers. We always thought that a woman with so many children may have had more than one partner. One of them might have had a criminal record. Herr Fritzl didn't have time to give a DNA sample and kept postponing it because he had so much to do.
On April the 26th, a week after Kirsten had first been admitted to hospital, and with her condition worsening, Joseph Fritzl led Elisabeth and 2 more children into the house. He explained to his wife that after 24 years away, Elisabeth had heard the appeals and returned from the cult. She was anxious to see her seriously ill daughter.
Nach meiner Erinnerung sind sie sogar zweimal zum Spital gefahren. As far as I can remember, they even went to the hospital twice, because the main doctor wasn't there. When they got there later on, the police had already heard they were coming. Dass die nun kommen werden.
Tipped off, the police were ready and waiting. It was Elisabeth they wanted to question.
The questioning focused on this woman, where she'd actually been and why she'd neglected her children like that.
It wasn't all that easy for the police because Elisabeth didn't want to talk.
But as the night wore on, the truth started to emerge.
It was quite late, around midnight, that she revealed that she hadn't abandoned her children, but had been incarcerated for 24 years.
Quite unexpectedly, police found themselves listening to an incredible story of kidnap, incarceration, and rape.